name's Jeremy, if you don't know me. Today I will be sharing my testimony on how I found God. So, let's get started. When I was born in 2003, I was not born into a Christian family. Most of my life, I grew up not knowing who God was. And my parents were split. So I lived with my mom on weekends, and I'd see my dad I'd live with my mom on weekdays and see my dad on weekends. And when I was living with my mom had a lot of problems going on in her life, and she wouldn't really, she wasn't taking care of me properly. And when I was 10 years old, I was actually taken away from my mom by the ministry. And so I ended up moving with my grandma when I was 10, and I lived with her in Tofino for 1 year. And when I was there, I went to a youth group while I was there. It was like 12 people, and even then, I wasn't really going there to learn about God. I was just going there to just hang out with my friends. So I'd go there, and I thought it was really fun. And then, after living with my grandma for a year, she sent me off to boarding school. And that's one of those reasons that she did that, was because at the time I was doing terrible at school. I was just getting really bad grades, and I was just not doing good at all. So then, when I was at boarding school, I started getting in with all the wrong people. I started smoking cigarettes, I started smoking weed. I started drinking alcohol. I was getting into all this bad stuff with with older people. I got suspended a few times from that school, and and it was just all this stuff that it just made me feel terrible, and it was all this stuff that God didn't want me to do. And then when boarding school finished, at the end, my grandma actually died of lung cancer, and she didn't even smoke, so that was kind of hard for me. And then after that, I moved with my dad in here in Vancouver 2 years ago. And then when I was with my dad, I still was doing all this bad stuff at school. I got suspended from school a few times, even then, here in Vancouver. And then one day, I remember asking my dad if there's a youth group here in Vancouver, because I was just wondering, when I was in Tofino, there's a lot of good people, right? And at the youth group, so I was wondering if there was one that I could go to. And then my dad knew of Broadway Church, so he went on the website, he searched up if there was a youth group. And then, and then we found, at the time it was called Youth Church, throwback. And then, I came here, and then if Jesse is here, could you raise your hand? Where are you? Yeah, that guy over there is the first guy to ever talk to me here. So, and he was just really nice to me, and I went home, and I was just really grateful about that. And and it was really good. So I started coming here to youth, and I started learning more about God. And but at the same time, I'd still go back to doing all this bad stuff that I was doing. I'd go home and I'd smoke, I'd do all these drugs and all this stuff. And then a couple months later, I went to iCamp, and it was pretty good. And even when I was in iCamp, I got in trouble there one time. I actually got caught smoking cigarettes in the bathroom there. So sorry to all the guys who showered in there. And so I remember, and then I remember a day, it was either a day or 2 days after that, I remember I was just worshiping, and I was just, one of the pastors, he's like, just ask God what he wants you to do. So I asked God, what do you want me to do? And then I just heard him say, just stop doing drugs, stop smoking, stop drinking. And then that just made me cry. I was just like, oh my gosh, it was so overwhelming for me. And then I felt forgiven for what I did, and I didn't even deserve it. And I know that God's always there for me, and that's my story.